is a continuation of our family documentary, which we covered last time. And Mama Christian gave us a briefing of our journey up to some point. We will continue to have short episodes for convenience in terms of time. Thank you again, and welcome, Mama Christian. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up to last time, we talked about our journey. Of course, these journeys are unique, which is why we are speaking to ours. Perhaps it will prove instructive, useful to somebody out there. And it was up to the point where we had a wedding, of course, and we began to have a family as we know it. And one of the things that emerged in the previous interview was a poem that Mama Christian wrote and that really stood out in our wedding. And, you know, it was expressive of our journey past and expectations in marriage and family life. Yeah, normally it is thought and it is the experience that expectations are not necessarily the reality in marriage. They normally say it is not a bed of roses. Yeah, it is one thing to wed and another thing to be married. I just want to put it forward, put it across as our maybe the first question. How has your experience been, especially, you know, that frame of mind that you had as you were reading out or writing the poem, and how your journey in marriage has really been? Yeah, what might you say? And perhaps as a reflection to somebody who is new and perhaps who is considering getting into the married state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Of course, maybe a glimpse into the poem. The poem largely talked about our journey, the experience right from the time we met until the very last day. Actually, it was something wrote just some few days to the D-Day. Yeah, so it covered quite a lot. And of course, there was also a glimpse of what I expected in the future. But I think my expectations were modest because I could relate with the experiences of others and even how I was brought up, even my family set up, and even friends who are already there, and even friends who had been there for some time. So I did not really have a lot of expectations. I had not built castles in the air. I knew that there were challenges just like any other marriage. And so my expectations were quite modest. Yeah, I would say they were very, very modest. And I was willing to take it the way it was gonna come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was it. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being that my expectations were modest, I was willing to learn and also to unlearn. Of course, generally as a young person, there are those things that you get to imagine. Yeah. And you get to imagine maybe a time whereby you never disagree. But those things, they're just part of life. And they're just a way of showing us that, you know, the grace of God is made sufficient in our weaknesses. And there are also ways of making us learn that it is not by strength or by might, but by the Spirit of the Lord. So when God is leading in everything, every situation, even if it's hard, it's difficult, you don't understand, but you get to trust Him because ultimately He's the one who leads and you get to trust His leading. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And oh, that's interesting. You know, almost a philosophy that the best preparation for a dynamic experience is to have modest expectations, so that when the blessings exceed the expectations, it becomes a surprise, and the heart is better prepared to appreciate the blessings. But when the expectations are higher than reality, perhaps you've read them in novels, happily ever after, then the stern realities of life perhaps may undeceive you, and you might find that marriage is the sublime, the simple joys and pleasures of marriage may be beneath the expectation. So that is really quite a thing, and God bless. Now, one of the immediate things that played out, and perhaps it also does with many other families, was that you didn't get to have a child on day one. You know, for some families, it is nearly a biological accident. You know, somebody says, "Oh, I just had a child. I didn't plan for them," and it is almost an inconvenience. But for yours, you waited and you prayed.
Yeah.
And what would you say was the experience? The experience was like, and perhaps something learned from that journey.
The experience was hard, and it was traumatizing as well, because we live in a society that expects that marriage is all about having children. So the expectations become so high, and people are always there to watch. Yeah, people watch everywhere you go, and some people are bold enough to ask you, like, what are you still waiting for? You are getting slender and slender day by day. We are not seeing things happening. So what is wrong? And then at first, those things really used to disturb me. And of course, I also had my personal kind of, setbacks. And yeah, it was not so friendly. I'll say it was not so friendly at all. And yeah, there's one experience that really stood out. He loves children, and that is obvious. That has been obvious, and that was even obvious before we had our own. I remember an instance when a family came in, and just where we were seated, and he really looked at that child. It was a baby boy, and he looked at that child, and until like you could, he could hardly notice anyone or anything, and it struck me so hard. And it was like, is it this real? Huh? So I asked myself, for how long then should we wait? So of course there are other experiences when maybe you think that, oh, it has happened, and then boom, things blow in your face. And it happened twice. I remember the first time it was so hard, it was so difficult for me. I really blamed God, and I was like, God, you're not fair. Does it have to hurt like this? And I was so down. I was downcast, and it was just on Friday. The Sabbath was approaching, and that was one of my worst Sabbath in my life. I think, yeah, just the worst I've ever experienced. And it was a torture to me, a torture. As much as, yes, he tried encouraging me, I know that he was also downtrodden. But to thank God that he lifted up. He lifted us up above that experience. And the second time it also happened. But what strengthened me was his prayer. Of course, I was so hurt. And of course, I was so tired of what people were saying. And people can talk until you get to doubt yourself. Yeah, so I was like, is like, what is not happening? But I remember for that second experience, it was different. The reason why it was different, I got to appreciate the many blessings that God had given me. I was grateful for the fact that I was married, and I was grateful for the fact that God has given us, that happiness in marriage. I was grateful for the fact that I was there in a place where so many people are longing to be, you know. And, I was married to a Christian who cared about, my spiritual growth. So I learned to be grateful for the many things that God had given me. Yeah, I learned to be grateful and to appreciate, and also to know that it was not, he will not withhold any good thing from his child, but at the right time he will give it. So just learning to appreciate that, oh, if it has not happened, then it will happen next time. Maybe that time is not right. And one thing that also that waiting experience taught me was patience. Yeah, when I was single, I would never I did not have patience for people's children. Yeah. And I was like, why is this child doing this? Where is the parent? And things like that. So I will be quick to see the imperfection. Yeah. But now I was already there, not having a child, but in the process of waiting. And it made me to discover more. It made me to be, to be patient, to be kind, to be gentle, to be understanding, and also just to prepare myself for that time. Yeah, to prepare myself, because I also had more time to study and really understand God's will, God's ideal marriage, God's ideal way, and how we should even do ideal way, and even how if these children come, how they should be raised up and trained in the way of the Lord. So it was quite some learning experience for me, and I will not say it was in vain. Yeah, it made me better. It made me better prepared for that occasion.
Yeah, that is really profoundly striking for many reasons. One of them is that I've discovered many people have imaginary troubles because of trying too hard to respond to societal expectations. And I believe hardly any of us is an exception. Some of the things that really was striking is, what is the perspective of people? Because people say funny things.
Sure.
And you try to really accommodate yourself into them. And sometimes people may misinterpret providence. Yeah, just like even in the case of Job, people said, oh, there is something you need to confess. Yeah, and I think that those friends of Job were the greater pain to Job. I think perhaps even more than what he was going through. Yeah, so sometimes, you finish school, the expectation that is that you should have a job immediately. And those who had jobs immediately, maybe this is for students or those who are just done with school, because somebody else got a job immediately, they feel those who don't have perhaps are under some curse. Yeah, or just something like that, or maybe earning some given salary. So life is that dynamic, and I believe sometimes when God allows us to pass through some of them, we get to be more balanced and to view reality differently and more sympathetically, especially when we deal with people who are going through similar experiences. But the other thing that this experience also led me personally to was to appreciate the gift when it eventually comes. There is a preparation that waiting gives the heart. I read somewhere that sorrow prepares the heart for joy. You appreciate joy better when you've known sorrow. You appreciate the substance better when you've experienced the lack of it. Yeah, so you attach more value. And I remember, during some of those prayers, we were specific even on the gender. And, one of the instances that, I discovered, kumbe she listens to my prayers. I was praying alone. I knew I was alone with God, as I normally do when I'm praying, and I was praying for the matter, and the burden of my prayer was mostly on her, because when you are waiting and it blows out biologically, sometimes it blows upon their face more than on the face of the man.
Sure.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and of course, even the expectations of the society, it's more traumatizing for her. But that prayer was heavy on me, and I was moved to tears. And but kumbe she was listening. Maybe she'll say something to that. But it made the gift better or richer when eventually God gave it, because God was also very specific, to our request. Yeah, that the child came and it was a baby boy, and we thank God for that. Now I want to ask the last question. Yeah, as we transition out, that this is also dynamic in families. Before marriage, before children come, the way the two relate is different slightly. There are different dynamics. Yeah, a lot of the times you may even find, and it was not without maybe some little trial of heart, pain of heart. I was getting wind as the child comes in. I was the first boy. So now this child comes in and you feel like, oh, all attention is going. Yeah, so I think I would say I wish I learned this better and earlier before the child came, that when a child is brought into the world, and I've seen it as a philosophy even from other married families. When a child comes, there may even be danger of alienation of affections between the original parties in the marriage. Yeah, so I learned it as a challenge that when the child comes, the affection should tend to center around the child, and the parents would even have deeper mutual attentions towards each other and towards the child than when maybe the mother is directly responsible and the father feels wind. So that is a dynamic that plays out. So I wanted to also ask Madam, how did you see, what is your experience, the dynamics and perhaps a challenge to those who are bringing children to the world, the dynamics between being without a child and after having a child. And maybe if there is something you could comment to the previous, point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On that prayer. Not that I was eavesdropping. No, of course I was not, definitely. But we were just from doing sundown. And I was left behind. I was sorting a few things. And when I went to the bedroom, of course, he knelt and he was praying. And I stood at the door. I was asking myself, should I go back or should I go and sleep? But something caught my attention because the prayer was unique. I would say it was very, very unique. And it was a prayer basically offered on my behalf. I felt so weak. I felt so bad, and my heart was so heavy. And as I listened to the content of that prayer, I felt strengthened. And as he prayed, of course, he was crying to his God. He was speaking to God. And, tears were rolling down from my heart. I still get emotional whenever I remember that prayer. But when he said amen, I also said amen. And I went and slept. But as I was sleeping, I was sobbing. I was seriously sobbing. So I don't know when I slept, but I remember I slept because I woke up in the morning. But that Sabbath morning, I woke up earlier than usual, and I woke up to pray. And I woke up to pray, and I just cried to my God. Yeah. And I felt that I really needed a moment with him because it was only him who could do what? Who could help me. So at that given instant, I felt at peace. And that peace was all that I needed. And truly, he gave me that peace. And of course, it was not long after that that Christian came. Yeah, and when he came, it was a blessing, appreciated, and it was a prayer answered, and it continued to strengthen me. And of course, things are different when a child is not in the picture. It's very different because when the child comes, when the child is not in the picture, it's only the two of you. So you have each other's back, to take care of. But now here comes a helpless babe who needs everything done and who will absorb the attention of the mother almost fully. And the father might be helpless. Yeah, but one thing it has taught us, or it has helped us to realize and understand, is that both parents have a responsibility. It is not one person's child, but it should be a combined responsibility. When that happens, the mother feels supported and the mother feels her hands freed. Yeah. And she can be able to take care of other duties comfortably.
Including of the husband.
Yeah, including of the husband. Still, because now you'll be having two babies, they're always called big babies. So you have now two babies to take care of. But what I want us to take home is that it should be a collective responsibility. And whenever the mother's hands are held, yes, and whenever she has a commitment, then the father should step in and aid. Yeah, the father should step in and aid to help things move smoothly. But when it is left as a responsibility of the mother, that is when it becomes burdensome, and that is when the father will feel left out. Yeah, but it should not be so. It should be a collective responsibility.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I guess that would mean a lot to many families that are beginning. Thank you. When the child was born, his name was Christian. Both names, by the way, of course, we did in consultation. Fathers take pride in naming their children and especially their sons. But Christian, Adriel, both names were given by the mother. But we, in consultation, there were a number of choices, but we zeroed in on the two. And we think that there is no stronger way of identifying this child with his future, the future we hope for him, than by being named directly a follower of Christ.
Amen.
So that he may not even be ashamed of it, that he is born into that experience. Then the second name is Adriel, which means God is my help. God bless you, Mama Christian, and thank you for sharing with us. Amen.
While we do his good will, he abides with us still, and with all who will trust